los sectores más vulnerables, más carenciados.
Below our interest and to build the work for the people, not for ourselves.
El liderazgo que mi país necesita, al igual que los demás países del mundo, es un liderazgo basado en el absoluto respeto de los derechos fundamentales de las personas. El cuidado del ambiente, el desarrollo sostenible y la transparencia en la gestión pública.
As the social inclusion, they take care of environment and sustainable development.
Como decía ayer el Guruji sabiamente, un verdadero líder es un líder que fomenta otros liderazgos, que trabaja en conjunto, que impulsa a jóvenes a transformar el mundo.
As Guruji said yesterday, a true leader is the one that inspires other leaderships and works for the common wellness. And all the countries together, we have to work to build better leaderships to promote the culture and peace to a sustainable development.
Todos los países del mundo debemos trabajar por construir liderazgos que promuevan una cultura de paz y el desarrollo sostenible.
And again, all the countries, we need to work together to build this development for all the people.
Quisiera conozcan a través de mis palabras un poco a mi bello país.
I would like you to know in a brief words some things about my country.
El Paraguay está en el centro de América del Sur y tiene como vecinos a Brasil, Argentina y Bolivia.
Paraguay is in the center of South America and it has as neighbors Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia.
Tiene una población de 7 millones de habitantes, en su mayoría joven, y una economía emergente.
And it has 7 million people as population and most of them are youth.
Es un Estado social de derecho, unitario, indivisible y descentralizado.
It's a social rule of world, indivisible, unitary, and decentralized.
Sufrió y logró recuperarse gracias a sus valerosas mujeres de una atroz guerra, la guerra de la Triple Alianza.
It was slaughtered and gained to recover itself thanks to the valuable woman from an atrocious war, the war of the Triple Alliance.
Guerra de la cual en el año 1870 sobrevivieron muy pocos, en su mayoría mujeres y niños.
And from this war, only a few got to survive, most of them women and children.
Las mujeres paraguayas lograron reconstruir al Paraguay de las cenizas, luego de un país devastado por la guerra.
The Paraguayan woman got to reconstruct the country from ashes, from a country devastated and consumed by the war.
El gobierno actual de la República del Paraguay ha instaurado un plan de fortalecimiento de los derechos humanos de las personas.
The actual government of the Republican Paraguay has established a work with democracy and representative participation and pluralist.
El empoderamiento de las mujeres, la lucha contra la pobreza, la humanización de las cárceles y la dignificación de los pueblos nativos constituyen factores preponderantes.
the empowerment of women. The empowerment of women, the fight against poor, against the poverty, and the humanization of the prisons has dignified the native peoples. This constitute the work that the actual government is heading to.
En cuanto al empoderamiento de las mujeres, actualmente en el Congreso de la República del Paraguay se encuentra en discusión la ley de paridad.
In the actual government, the Congress of the country of Paraguay is working with the parity law,
que busca la igualdad y la alternancia de hombres y mujeres en cargos de elección popular en general, así como en organismos del sector público y partidos políticos.
that is looking forward to the equality of genders in the private areas and also in the public areas.
Como ministra de Justicia tengo a mi cargo el sistema penitenciario del Paraguay, el sistema de acceso a la información pública, el sistema de acceso a la justicia y el registro civil de las personas.
As the Minister of Justice, I have in my hands the system, the prison system, the system of access to the public information, and the system of justice and civil registration of the people.
El otorgamiento de oportunidades a las mujeres constituye una importante clave de éxito para los distintos gobiernos del mundo.
The various opportunities of empowerment to the woman, it is itself a very important key to success for the various governments of the world.
A través de las funciones que me tocan desempeñar, puedo decir que las mujeres, como madres, esposas, sostén de familia en muchas ocasiones, podemos ocupar cargos de relevancia y cambiar el mundo junto a los hombres.
Amongst all the work that I need to do, I can say that the women as mothers, wives, and main pillars of the family in many occasions, we can handle charge of relevance and change the world together with the men.
Desde el año 2015 en Paraguay rige la Ley de Acceso a la Información Pública que permite a los ciudadanos participar en forma activa de la gestión pública y acceder a datos que antes permanecían inaccesibles.
Since 2015 in Paraguay, there is a law of public access to the information that allows the citizens to participate actively in the public works through the knowledge of the data that before were inaccessible.
Esta política de transparencia logró que Paraguay mejore 20 posiciones en el índice de percepción de la corrupción de Transparencia Internacional publicado en febrero de este año.
This new politics has made that Paraguay go up in the perception of corruption in the country, allowing the people to have more access to this information.
En cuanto al sistema penitenciario, desde el año 2013 en Paraguay se ha implementado un plan de reforma penitenciaria basado en la humanización de las cárceles.
In the prison system, since 2013 in Paraguay, we have started a plan of reforming based in the humanization of the prisons.
El régimen penitenciario paraguayo presenta niveles de hacinamiento preocupantes, al igual que en otros países de América Latina. Actualmente, 6.000 personas se encuentran en estado de hacinamiento, es decir, sin un lugar de alojamiento en Paraguay.
Actually, the prison system in country, as many countries in Latin America, there are concerning levels of not having places for the prisoners itself where living in the jails.
Este es un problema que aqueja no solamente a Paraguay, sino a todos los países de América Latina y a muchos países del mundo, y nos lleva a pensar en soluciones de fondo, soluciones profundas.
This is a problem that it has to do with many countries of South America and many countries of the world. So it makes us think about a solution from the base.
Desde que asumí mis funciones como ministra de Justicia, solo hace 2 meses, he iniciado una campaña de concienciación que revela el verdadero problema del sistema penitenciario.
Since I got into this charge of minister, just 2 months ago, I started a campaign of awareness that reveals the actual problem of the prison system that is not based on jails, but in the system of justice.
El problema no radica en las cárceles, sino en el sistema de justicia.
You can see it is based on the system of justice.
Hemos podido instalar la conciencia de que el hacinamiento en las cárceles es una consecuencia de la indefinición de los procesos judiciales y el uso abusivo de la prisión preventiva.
We can establish the consciousness that this problem is based on this base is because of consequence of the indefinition of the judicial processes and the abusive power of preventive prisons.
Ante una infraestructura colapsada e insuficiente, el Ministerio de Justicia se encuentra abocado a solucionar el problema de fondo que produce el hacinamiento y la violación de los derechos humanos de las personas privadas de libertad, la cultura excesiva del encierro y una justicia ineficiente.
So in this collapse infrastructure and inefficient, the Minister of Justice has evokely fixed the focus into working these problems from the bottom that is producing this lack of space and the violation of the human values and rights into the people private of freedom.
Para ello hemos impulsado mesas de trabajo interinstitucionales, reformas legislativas, la incorporación de herramientas tecnológicas que promuevan una cultura de paz y la inclusión social y una justicia más humana y equitativa.
For this, we established a lot of center of works with political areas and the inclusion of tools, technological tools that promote peace, social inclusion, and a more human and justice and equitative laws and justice.
Esta verdad instalada en los medios de comunicación y en la conciencia ciudadana ha generado cambios positivos que hoy ya se traducen en libertades otorgadas por los jueces penales del Paraguay.
By this truth installed in the media and this consciousness and this social consciousness, it has generated very clear changes that now are translated into the raising of freedom from the government, from the judges to those people that had unjust treatment.
Ayer, estando aquí en India, recibí una grata noticia. Hemos obtenido en solo 3 días más de 200 libertades otorgadas por jueces en Paraguay.
Just yesterday, being in India, I got the great news to have, in only 3 days, we have assigned the freedom for more than 200 prisoners that we've been working with this work for 2 months.
El arte de vivir es un protagonista de todo este cambio que hemos generado en Paraguay.
Art of living is being part of all these changes that we've been working in Paraguay.
A través de su programa Prison Smart, ha sido protagonista de esta revolución. Ha enseñado una cultura de paz. Enseña prácticas de respiración avanzadas que generan efectos de limpieza en el cuerpo y la mente.
Through the Prison Smart program, it has been a main pillar of this revolution of culture and peace, teaching breathing techniques that are generating deep impact and cleanliness in the body and the mind of the prisoners.
Este programa ha sido introducido en 3 de las 16 cárceles del Paraguay.
This program has been implemented in 3 of the main prisons of the 16 prisons in Paraguay.
Ha producido resultados asombrosos, ha transformado vidas.
It has made amazing changes and has changed many lives.
Todos los países del mundo debemos aliarnos para fomentar una política basada en la libertad y el respeto de los derechos humanos fundamentales. No podemos seguir prisionizando la pobreza en el mundo.
All the countries of the world, we need to have an alliance to promote the base politics based in liberty and respect for the human values. We cannot keep being imprisoning the poor people.
Todo parece imposible hasta que se logra, ya lo decía Nelson Mandela.
As Nelson Mandela used to say, everything seems impossible until you do it.
En Paraguay parecía imposible la revolución y la reforma del sistema penitenciario. Hoy es una realidad.
In Paraguay, it seemed impossible to make a change in the judicial system, but now it looks so possible and is happening nowadays.
Gracias al compromiso de muchas fuerzas unidas, como el arte de vivir, que se ha sumado a este importantísimo reto. Muchísimas gracias.
Thanks for the commitment of many areas that are coming together, especially with the support of Art of Living. We are coming to achieve this. Thank you very much.
So I mean, this difference is number one problem in the region between Saudi Arabia and Iran, between Turkey and Iran. That's the major, as a regional reconciliation must be under the pressure and influence of the international or global superpowers or United Nations to make peace between those countries, to bring it down, this violence. That's one. Second, among ourselves, there are conflict on ethnic basis as well, in addition to the sectarian. The first one is reflecting on Iraq. Second one is the Baghdad Erbil. Kurds are over 100 years asking for their independent or free will, or let's say in August 10th, 1920, the Sevre Treaty was recognizing that those people, Kurds and Assyrian, has right to have some referendum to be independent or not, from South Turkey and North Iraq. But later on in 1923, Lausanne Treaty, everything was gone. So since that time till now, it's a problem. So this is second conflict in Iraq between Erbil and Baghdad, Kurds, and there is a strip of almost 1,000 kilometers from Sinjar, where there was a genocide enslaving the women of Yazidis. Sinjar, crossing Tel Afar of Turkmen Shia, and then Nineveh plain of Assyrian community, Christian Chaldeans, and then up to Mendeli, 1,000 kilometers, is problem between Baghdad on the land. So-called, let's say, the Article 140 of Constitution, the conflict on land. Who want to control that land? Almost 27 to 30,000 kilometers square between north and south. And the third is among every party in the region. So the spiritual and the religious, yes, it has a role, but on regional level and then on religious leaders, which is one trend, or let's say one group among the Sunni. It is only the problem, not only Islam, but one group, small group, which is, they don't believe in diversity. Everybody must follow them, which start from Ibn Taymiyyah and later on Al-Wahhabiyya. It is a movement. They say that they are fighting some wrong things, but at last they don't believe in diversity. So this is a problem. So I think if there is no Security Council resolution to stop this in the curriculum and the religious schools and the Jum'ah pray and even in Sunday pray of Christians when they are extremists or let's say they don't accept diversity. So if you don't stop this, the hatred will not stop and diversity will not come there and then peace will not come there. In addition to there is no peace without justice. Mahatma Gandhi fight for justice and free will of people. So if there is no free will of people, no justice, there will be no peace and no stability all over the world. Every day we will have some new ISIS in different names and different locations. Chalderan was 500 years ago, but till this moment, Chalderan between Safavid and Ottoman Empire is on. It's on, but in different names, in different locations, and we, the poor people, are the fuel for that fire. From Raqqa to Nineveh to Mendeli, crossing the Kirkuk. So this is the problem, and we have to move on. Regional level, global level, even the global level is a problem. Russia and America has to come to understanding and to find some solutions, not by war, in Syria and Iraq and everywhere. So this is the result, the proxy war in my homeland, and it is on different level, global, regional, and internal as well. Thank you.
Armin, if I can bring you in here, the refugee crisis which you mentioned in your speech is something that the world has not seen or read about in a really long time. Again, I ask you a similar question. Is there a certain hesitation for people to accept a spiritual message to help in the uniting and the mixing between two different types of people in the same city?
Yeah, of course. I think the special problem in this moment is that we have a refugee crisis around the world since years, since decades of years. We have refugees in Lebanon, in Syria, in a lot of states in Africa. And this is the majority of refugees, not in Europe, but in the third world, in Africa and Asia. But in this moment, all those global crises come to Europe. And this is new for a lot of people, that the crisis is not far away, but it's inside their village, inside their cities. And 1 million people coming, of course, a lot of social capital is engaged to help the people. And others say they have another religion, they are destroying our culture, they have to go. And they build fences and borders, but this is not the solution, to build a fence and a border, because at the Macedonian border you have terrible pictures of families before the border, and now the refugees are in another country behind the border, so it's not a solution. So therefore, we need a new European approach and a new global approach to fight the reasons for refugees, and that is what you mentioned.
Help me to stay in my home.
Yes, exactly. This is the main task for international policy, to help the people to stay in their home. This could be an economic question, refugees of hunger and others in Africa, and refugees of war. And I agree completely, the main threat for the international community is ISIS, because this is against all values and religious principles, what they are doing, and we need a consensus of Russia, of the United States, of Iran, and of Saudi Arabia, despite all the differences they have. But they have one main message: we have to fight this kind of terrorism who is killing and producing victims and victims in this world. And this is not acceptable for a tolerant and multicultural world today.
And in the name of religion, that too.
Yes, but in the name of religions, Muslims are victims of those people. These are not Europeans only victims. The Muslims are victims. Normal people are victims of some terrorists, and that is what we have. With this art of living idea, with these principles, this could be one answer to a better world, and we have to promote it day by day by day.
Sure. Armando, if I can bring you in now. The conversation here was more in the sense of how do you keep people happy in their own home? That's one of the solutions that we're finding. And, you said that 25% of people in your area don't trust their neighbors. Similar factors, if you look in India, we see two different worlds, a rural and an urban world. And we see the trust and the other social factors much stronger in rural India than you'll see in urban India. I'm assuming it's a very similar situation in Mexico, where you see a different sort of balance between rural and urban. Is urbanization a necessary path to economic growth in Mexico, or your view?
Again, the last part? Sorry.
Is urbanization a necessary evil, or not evil necessarily, is urbanization a necessary path to growth, to economic growth?
Well, globalization is part of the reality. I don't think that the discussion should be if it's important for growth or not. Globalization is a reality, and we have to live with it. You have to share goods and to do this every day. The thing is, how do you manage to keep on being what you are? I think in terms of how you maintain your national values, your original core, as part of the interchange you have with other countries, with other people, with other communities. And I think that's the main question that should be asked. There is fear regarding this. Sharing with diversity generates fear. People get fear about what they don't know. And I think that's the core discussion we should have. Globalization is a reality, but how a country as Mexico, a country as India, which are so ancestral, which have this contribution to humanity that's so superior to the current material interaction that we have, I think that's the thing that we should answer. Because if we can generate a good equilibrium in between globalization and the things that countries like ours give to to the planet, I think that's a good way for sharing each day. So I would put it that way.
Sure, sure. If I can get Kate in. Kate, you're an MP in possibly the most cosmopolitan country in the world. And you're also supporting for mayor a Muslim candidate for London, for the mayor of London. Your views on diversity and how to sort of encourage that. And then we'll open to the audience for a few questions.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I mean, obviously I live in London. It's a very, very diverse city. And we have an opportunity now to get behind a son of an immigrant, basically. And, you know, most of us have a connection with that. Yes, he is Muslim, but he stands for many people that are not Muslims as well. His father was a bus driver, his mother was a seamstress, and a lot of people can identify with somebody like that. So yes, I am supporting Sadiq. Yes, he is a Muslim, but I'm not a Muslim, but he stands for me. He stands for people like my mother and my father that came from Nigeria to the UK. I'm second generation like he is. It will be groundbreaking if London, one of the most diverse cities, can get behind a son of an immigrant, a Muslim man, because I think it will send ripples outside, especially as our panelists have been speaking about the refugee crisis. If we can turn that into a positive and show that, you know, when we allow people to come into a country and we stand together as brothers and sisters, at the end of that, we can actually get a leader that will get behind all of us and support our cities to make our cities be diverse, which is a positive thing.
Sure. We have time for 2 questions. If I just see if anybody has a comment or a question, just raise your hands. We get a mic to you. Question there? Yeah, right here. I'll give you this.
My question is, to solve the problem of refugees, isn't it better to improve their standards of living in their countries and to make them deal there with the problems they have and to give them peace and conflict resolution and to rebuild for them their land and to give them opportunities to find work and education? Wouldn't that be better for them than actually making all these reforms to get them outside and to get them into different countries? Can any one of you please answer this question for me?
Yes, I agree completely, because this was one of the mistakes of the Western Union, of the European Union, of the world community. A lot of refugees from the Syrian war went to the neighbor countries, and they wanted to wait until the war is over and then go back to their countries. And they stayed in Lebanon, in Jordan, and in Turkey. And the World Food Program provided $28 per month per every refugee. And this was reduced until $13 per month. So the living conditions for the people there were so bad, and they had no education for their children. They went to Europe, they gave their money to the smugglers, and all those things which happened afterwards. And therefore, you are completely right. We have to help in the countries to stabilize the peace, to give money for education in the refugee camps. And there are as well good examples. I met people in the refugee camp in Satari. It's in Jordan. 80,000 refugees in one camp. It's 5 kilometers south of the Syrian border. And there are better conditions. The children go to school. There is food provided, and all the people living there say, if the war is over, we can back very fast and very slowly to our home. And this is the better idea than bring all the refugees to Europe and to other countries. So I agree. Thank you very much.
So another question. Get a mic here, please. We'll call this the last question.
Good morning. My question is to the MP from UK, who just mentioned that she's supporting a Muslim candidate for the mayor of London. Okay. Here, okay, I have nothing against anyone supporting anyone, but one thing that beats everyone's imagination, including mine, is that the feeling that says he's a Muslim candidate, but he's also standing for every one of us, so I'm supporting him and everyone is supporting him. But the core question that comes in my mind is, for keep the religion, keep the gender or any of their identity or lineage, everything aside. Is the world looking at the credentials of the candidate, whether he can really hold on to that chair, or the dignity of the chair and the honor of the chair, instead of looking at where he is coming from, which religion does he represent, which particular ethnicity does he come from? Is the world looking at that? Are the leaders looking at that? Or is it just looking at one particular ethnicity, one particular background, so that, again, in a way, are we not invigorating that kinds of feelings in the minds of people by going by these kinds of considerations? And also, at the end of the day, this might end up as pampering a particular kind of a vote bank. This is my question. Thank you.
You know, it's a very good question. What I would like to say is, I didn't say I'm supporting him because he's Muslim. I said that he is a Muslim, which is different. Because, as you've rightfully said, it's about his credentials and what he stands for and why it is important to support him because of his vision for London. Because, first and foremost, he will be the mayor for London, and those people that didn't even vote for him, he will be governing them as well. So he has to make sure that their life will be better under his stewardship. So he happens to be Muslim, that's not why. But it's important to say that. And why I say it's important to say that he's Muslim, because there are many Muslims that live in London. So they will feel comfortable and feel they identify with him. But there'll be others like myself, I'm not a Muslim, but I'm in the Labour Party and he's in the Labour Party. So we have the same values. So we stand for equality, we stand for better standard of living. Most people have to use the underground. He's saying he wants to freeze the prices because they're going up. So these are the reasons why you support him, not because he just happens to be Muslim. So I just need to make that clear so that you take that away with you and know that you cannot just support someone because of their religion or their ethnicity, because they have to govern everybody. And all the things that bring us together, whether it's housing, transport, education, safer streets, these are the things which bring us together. And these are the things that you should be looking for when you look for a leader and you look for someone who's going to govern you, because they are the things which bring us all together. And religion is maybe one of those things, but it cannot be the gel. It's those other things which bring us together.
Okay, just to follow up on what he was saying, I think, and he wasn't saying that you're supporting him because he's Muslim. I think what his question was is that, in reality, the politics of London, will people vote for him given his identity? Or do you have faith that everybody who votes for him will only vote for him on the merit of his
I think
program?
What we are seeing now in the media is they're trying to use that he's a Muslim as a negative. They're using that to say because he is Muslim, he's an extremist. And that is what the media are doing. So I say that someone should be able to stand up, yes, say who they are, but that is not the defining factor. But unfortunately, because of the refugee crisis, because of ISIS, because of all of these things, the media is using that as a negative and casting a negative against someone who comes from a certain religion, which is unfortunate, because as we know, that is not the case.
We'll just take a last comment there, then we'll wrap it up.
In my country, I'm sorry to say, some of the leaders were using this sectarianism just to collect votes. So today, I am afraid that those immigrants in Germany, if 1% is bad guy or from ISIS, then you have 10,000 ISIS in Germany. I was there. My advice was take care of your filtration, what's going on. And the first weeks, I remember the number, 30,000 police, new police were recruited In Germany, you correct me if I'm wrong, 30,000 new Polish. But some of the candidates will use that, well, look, those are ISIS, and I will save your life now what's going on in America, for example, using this issue. And this will, again, break the integration of society, which is big danger on the global peace and global stability as well. This problem will start from Europe and America as well. It's too bad and too danger for their own interests and for our global interests as well. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. Lovely panel. Thank you all.
Thank you again to the August panel. Thank you, Mr. Goenka. It's been a very, very engaging panel, especially with a few questions that we could take from the audience as well. And I just wanted to share that, yes, it is indeed that very question of identity and the way we are perceived by our fellow human beings that the art of living has been able to bridge those different identities across the world. And this is why we have a microcosm of the world here with us today. We have 150 plus countries where we all relate to that common humanity that sits within each and every one of us. And so, and it's so nice that we're all talking about this at so many different levels, at the level of government, at the level of art and culture, in the private sector, and so on. So thank you very much for that discussion.
A big round of applause to the great panel. It was a wonderful discussion we had. Thank you for your speeches. And we ask Mr. Dasha Kati and Mr. Mehul Parekh to felicitate our speakers. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I'd also like to invite Mr. Binod Chaudhary to give the vote of thanks as well. Binodji, please join us at the podium. Mr. Binod Chaudhary is the chairman of the CG Corp Global and Chaudhary Group from Nepal. He is one of the largest industrialists in Nepal.
Okay, I'll try to be. Dear friends, allow me to, once again, on behalf of the Global Leadership Forum and the Art of Living, present my compliments and place on record our sincere vote of thanks to all the delegates, speakers, senior leaders, various heads of the governments, social workers, and above all, my colleagues from Art of Living from all over the world, 75 countries, 2,500 delegates, 110 speakers. We are not only grateful, we are touched, we are overwhelmed. Such is our family. Guruji said that the entire universe is one whole. When you drop holding to limited boundaries, what you get in return is the whole universe. This is the story of how one man has brought the whole world together. The man, my guru, Sri Ravi Shankar. I've attended several very high-powered conferences worldwide. Forbes, World Economic Forum in Davos, Commonwealth, heads of the summit in Sri Lanka and in Malta. And undoubtedly, those forums also bring in very accomplished, powerful, resourceful, influential people. But one thing which is distinctly different that I find here, the energy is so different. The energy is bound by spirituality. In these forums, we try to negotiate with one another. These forums are not without any agenda. Perhaps this is the only platform that I've witnessed where everybody is simply negotiating to one single cause, not against one another, to build a world that our Guruji has envisioned. Guruji, we are truly blessed that you had the imagination and the vision to conceive something like this. I urge you, Guruji, on behalf of many of us here, and I also read somewhere in the media, that this event must be given a continuity. This brings in, today this has brought in our like-minded people from 75 countries. This has to grow much beyond like the World Culture Festival. Annually or at least biannually, we must develop this forum into a platform where policymakers, governments, business leaders, social workers, philanthropists, artists, everyone come together unguarded, without protocol, and mingle together to work for the same cause, one big family, one big world. Now I will get back to my work, and my gratitudes, first of all, once again, go to our delegates, our speakers, who found time, despite their very busy schedule, to be with us. The last 2 days of deliberations have been thought-provoking. A big thank you on behalf of all of us. Now may I call upon Shweta to come and help me to felicitate our partners and sponsors, without whose support this event wouldn't have been possible. Shweta, please, can you call?
We are delighted to share with you all our esteemed and valued partners. And may I request Mr. M.P. Prabhu from Dynamic Press Trust to join us for a brief felicitation. May we all give a big round of applause to our valued partners. May I request Mr. Jaideep Nath to come on stage to felicitate? Yes. Didi, may I please request Mrs. Bhanumati Narasimhan to join us on the stage for the felicitation? May I request Ms. Preeti Sinha from Yes Bank, Mr. Sunil Munshi from Rohan Landscapes, our lunch sponsors, Shri Foundation, Mr. Rahul Verma, from ICICI Lombard, Mr. Umesh Mongia, from Loris Edutech Private Limited, Mr. Rajat Rakheja, from Coal India Limited, on behalf of Mr. Sutirth Bhattacharya, Chairman, we have Shri B.K. Panda, Director Personnel, BCCL, and Dr. R.S. Jha, Director Personnel, SECL. I will now invite our high tea sponsors, Mr. Vineet Kedia from Radhe Group. Can we all give a big round of applause to our partners? Mr. Sarvesh Sahara from Ruchi Group. Admiral Rahul Sharawat from Mazgaon Dock. Mr. Sanjay Parikh. Please. Can we request all our partners to stand for a photograph?
correct? Yes, yes, very good, very good. Very warm welcome to you. So in this deep dive, my name is Sanjay Pradhan. I'm Vice President for Leadership, Learning and Innovation at the World Bank Group in Washington, D.C. It's a real pleasure for me to be here. Let me jump right in to just introduce the subject very, very briefly, because you will hear from our very esteemed panelists, and you'll have the benefit of their wisdom. But the subject of our deep dive today is sustainable and developing. So we know that a central preoccupation of our times is how to make economic growth, development, and human welfare sustainable. Not just short term, but over a period of time. And there can be many challenges to sustainability. The first challenge that we always think about, which is really quite important, is the challenge to the environment, the environmental sustainability of economic growth. And I'm sure we'll hear from our panelists today. But there's also economic and financial sustainability. We have seen and lived in an era of global economic crises, of crisis in the financial economic system, and that poses another set of challenges. Another set of challenges is in the ethical realm of corruption and other aspects of ethical lapses that we have to worry about for sustainability. And of course, we live in a time where the sustainability threats coming from war, from terrorism and extremism pose additional challenges. So there could be many different dimensions of sustainability. What I would like to pose for our collective conversation here today are two overarching questions. What is the dimension of sustainability that we should be most worried about? And these are all important, but I'd want to hear from our panelists on which dimension of sustainability preoccupies them that they want to put forward. And the second overarching question I want to put forth for us, given that we are here at the Global Leadership Forum, what are the leadership implications for tackling these challenges? What are the leadership dimensions, qualities that are needed to tackle these challenges? And our panelists may want to address other dimensions as well. We have for you a very esteemed panel that's going to be addressing us. And let me give a very quick introduction to my panelists. You have their bios, so I will be brief here in the interests of time. So first we have Honorable Ms. Krishna Mathura, Member of Parliament for Suriname, to my very right. Give her a very warm applause. Ms. Mathura, Honorable Mathura served on the National Police Force for 34 years. She was appointed the National Representative for Suriname in CACAD, Inter-American Drug Abuse Control Commission, from 2010 to 2015. She is presently also the chairperson for the Art of Living Foundation in Suriname. Very warm welcome to you. Very warm welcome to you. Okay, next to her is the Honorable Mr. David Musabayana. He's the Member of Parliament from Wedza North, Zimbabwe. He holds an MBA from Nottingham Trent University with a degree in economics. He's the provincial chairperson of the Zimbabwe Commercial Farmers Union, and he's committed to giving back to the community through leading farmers' organizations in various parts of the country. Very warm welcome, David. Next, we have Dr. R. Sitharaman to my immediate right. Give him a very warm welcome. He's the Group Chief Executive Officer of Doha Bank. Dr. R. Sitharaman is the Group Chief Executive Officer of Doha Bank and a prominent personality in the banking industry in the Middle East. Under his leadership, Doha Bank became a high-performing bank, a global brand, and won a number of recognitions. He's recipient of multiple doctorates from leading universities, a high-profile economist, invited regularly by the international media, and has received many awards. Very warm welcome to you, sir. We are expecting shortly Dr. Vandana Shiva. I don't know whether she's already here, but as soon as she comes, I will introduce her. So let's go on to the next person. Mr. Andrew Forrest will not be able to join. He had a problem with his jet in the last moment, so He will not be able to join, but let me next introduce Dr. Hari Drajat. He's the Senior Advisor, Tourism Ministry, Indonesia. He has a rich and extensive experience in nurturing heritage in many roles in the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. He has also been the head of ASEAN Subcommittee on Culture and head of ASEAN's Committee Culture and Information for the Republic of Indonesia. He'll be addressing the issue of cultural sustainability. Very warm welcome to you. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Amit Dalal. He has been the Executive Director of Tata Investment Corporation Limited since 2010 and was appointed as Non-Executive Independent Director on 19th June 2008. He obtained his MBA from the University of Massachusetts and is a member of the Bombay Stock Exchange. He's the Managing Director of ANSEC Limited, one of the top stock brokering companies. Very warm welcome to you, Amit. So with this, let me just say one thing. Since we have a leadership challenge, which is to manage time in a much more restricted session, what we're going to do is we're going to improvise and do this in two parts. First, I'll request my panelists to give opening remarks for 4 to 5 minutes each. There's a bell that's going to be a gentle reminder that we love you very much. And if you get the second bell, it means we love you really, really very much. And so that's just going to be our way of expressing our dear affection for you. And after that, we will just listen to our panelists, and I'll immediately turn it over to you for your interventions and questions, and we'll have an interaction. Okay, so with that, I think we just turn to Krishna ji. If you don't mind, I'm just going to use your first name. Krishna ji, over to you. You can use that, or you can use the mic. It may be easier, whatever you prefer. Yeah. Okay, you prefer to stand, that's fine.
Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Namaskar, Assalamu alaikum. It is an honor and a privilege to be part of this global leadership forum. Suriname, where I came from, is a country on the northeastern coast of South America, just north of Brazil. It is located in a geographic area called the Guiana Shield, which contains more than 1/4 of the world's rainforest. 80% of the 164,000 square kilometers of Suriname is rainforest. Most of these areas are untouched forests and rivers. In 2013, scientists discovered some 60 species of previously unknown plants and animals in the interior of Suriname. After such a unique discovery, it is common to think that Suriname should protect the flora and fauna and preserve the forest for the world and for future generations. But as a developing country, we are under economic pressure to exploit the natural resources as gold, bauxite, wood, and water for economic growth. And as the case is in many other developing countries, the exploitation is done by multinationals, by getting in concession as much land as possible from the national government. In most of the cases, the government is looking at the short benefits as labor opportunities, at increase of income, at building roads and other infrastructure. In many cases, this seems to be the best solution for the moment, but is that really the case? Let's look at a case that happened in Suriname. In Suriname, who has a lot of bauxite, the multinational company, through its local company named Suralco, got a concession for mining of bauxite from approximately 120 years. The concession will last till 2033. Part of the deal was the construction of a dam to produce electricity to hydropower generation facility. 1,560 square kilometer land were underwater, and one of the largest reservoirs was created to facilitate the aluminum refinery. People who lived in that area had to move to other places. Most of the flora and fauna was lost. After mining for almost 100 years in Suriname, the company stopped mining last December 2015 because the operation was not profitable anymore. Of course, Suriname and our people had benefits from the deal. But were these benefits sustainable? What is left behind? Almost 2,000 people without a job, a sudden decrease of income, and after 100 years of mining, many thousand square kilometers of land is still not being rehabilitated. There is a huge damage of the biological environment. This case is still pending, and the current government in Suriname is considering actions against this company. Small countries with a weak information position, weak institutions, and less experience, legal cases are facing multinationals with much more experience, money, and more international networks. So the challenge is, what will we do as leaders? And I have 4 points that we should take into consideration. The first is raise awareness on the local level, on the city level, on the country level, and the global level of what's really needed to be happy and healthy in life. Fulfill the basic needs and promote the economy of enough. More property is not a guarantee for health and happiness. Make huge profit at any cost is also a moral issue, and we as leaders should raise our voices. The second important aspect is the policy framework on the local and national level. Involvement of all important stakeholders is a must. Within the broad discussions of decision-making process, the impact of all decisions should meet the requirement of sustainability. The third is strengthening the institutions of government, private companies, but within the society, all kinds of institutions. And the fourth is, I think, enforcement, development of strong rules and regulations on national and international level to discourage multinationals and national companies to harm flora and fauna. In conclusion, I believe that we as leaders who have the responsibility to protect the future of next generation should question ourselves about the impact of our decisions we are making now. What is the impact of these decisions now and after many years for all the sectors within the community? In the decision-making process, the answer for these questions must be taken into consideration. Finally, my strong belief in life is maintaining balance. Balance in every aspect of life. Balance within the nature, balance of power within the global community, balance of our needs. Balance should ensure the resources for next generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krishnaji. Very stark example of environmental challenges and a 4-point call to action. David, over to you.
Your Excellencies, honorable members, the Art of Living Foundation and its organizers, I would also want to extend my sincere gratitude to Bamini, Bindi, and the Nathu family, who introduced me into the Art of Living way of life. Also, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, for his relationship with the Indian leadership and the Indian community. Last but not least, to Guruji and the Art of Living members and the associates for organizing such an invaluable conference covering and fostering a new paradigm in leadership and the future the globe wants. A globe of inclusivity which builds the future we want and a happily ever after economic order. I'd also want to acknowledge and thank the legendary Mahatma Gandhi for setting the pace for peaceful resolutions and non-violence, which is a new order that we really have to embrace. I also want to thank Guruji for the new perspective of ethical leadership that spans into the future and beyond the legal and the physical borders, but cut through the culture, religion, and spirituality. Comrades and friends, I hail from the Republic of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe got its independence in 1980, and I'm a member of parliament in this government, representing Weather North constituency. His Excellency, the head of state, Comrade Robert Gabriel Mugabe, became a mover and a shaker in the early 2000s, where he realized that we had a dual economy which was well recognized in the world or in the globe. But that economy, only 5% of the citizens paid the tax. What do I mean? I mean 5% of the economy was owned, 95% of the economy was owned by 5% of the residents. So the president, with his leadership, realized that we were realizing a lot of economic growth, but there was little development. There was no equitable distribution of wealth. He started on a journey which was treacherous in some respect in the eyes of other people. Because the world didn't like it, he decided that land should be shared by the whole population. So land was redistributed to the masses. People who didn't have resources were given land. People who were living in mountains were given land. But this was at the expense of economic growth. We saw the economy sliding down. We saw the GDP falling. We saw the inflation soaring. But in terms of happiness, in terms of the well-being of the people of Zimbabwe, they were really happy. People are happy that they now own the means of production. They now own their own pieces of land. Where am I going? I'm talking about sustainability. I'm talking about the future. That the challenge that we have with economic indicators that we have today, the GDP, or any other indicators of development, doesn't look at wellness, doesn't look at distribution of income, it doesn't look at happiness, it doesn't look at religious and cultural issues. But as leaders, we need to embrace a new mode of development, a new model that embraces cultural aspects, that embraces the needs of society, that also looks at spirituality. So I think we need to look at those aspects of economy. I also looked at how, as global leaders, we can assist in balancing economics or economic growth with other aspects of development. And we say the challenge that we have as a globe is we are wasting resources. We produce more than we want to consume. Our factories are using more than they need to use. Our industry is using more fuel than it requires. So we need continuous improvement. If we embrace Dr. Deming's principle of continuous improvement, continuous innovation, embracing ICT will help us in reducing waste. It will help us in using clean fuels. We also need a new paradigm where the globe doesn't emphasize terrorism and mobilize all resources towards terrorism. I think we also need to look at the environment and mobilize the resources of the world towards improvement of the environment and making it sustainable for our future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Your call for a broader measure of well-being. Yesterday in the plenary, we discussed the Gross National Happiness Index, and also the call for stop wasting resources and looking at that. Let me turn to Dr. Sita Raman, who just told me that one of his doctorates, and you should see how many degrees he has, is from the Sri University. That was quite interesting to know. Dr. Sita Raman, over to you.
Distinguished guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure and privilege for me to be an integral part of this interesting and exciting World Cultural Festival. We live in an interconnected, interdependent world, one family. Globalization, re-regulation, technology, and consumerism is redefining the world. Financial economies are converting into real. Real economies are redefining the scope and performance. Communism has changed. Capitalism is alternating in form and substance. Mixed economies are redefining. Even after almost 8 years of financial crisis, we haven't resolved the real issue. The liquidity crisis moved into a funding crisis. Funding crisis moved into a solvency and sovereign issue. It's not economics, it is economics. Convergence of ecology and economics has to have sustainability. Millennium Development Goals, elimination of extreme poverty, gender equality, maternal health care protection, child mortality protection, ensuring environment sustainability are all not ordinary issues. While the Millennium Development Goals have been redefined as a sustainable development goal, ensuring all these factors in addition to energy for everyone, education for everyone, habitation to be looked at, hygiene should be looked at, water should be looked at, sanitation have to be looked at. Sustainability has to come, if at all there is a convergence in real order, not only in economics terms, not only in financial terms, in governance terms to global convergence. What is science without humanity? What is wealth without work? What is pleasure without consciousness? What is religion without sacrifice? What is politics without principles? Ill-founded. That's precisely the wall. If you have to recognize human dignity, human prosperity is the core essence of success. Human dignity has to come from understanding the dynamics of reality, territorial integrity, caste, creed, religion, all to be destroyed, decimated. Today, we live in a world which is interconnected, interdependence. The solution comes in realizing we love human beings, cut the borders, cut the religion, cut the caste, and we love each other, and peace and non-violence have been well-founded by our forefathers. Structured solutions are always there. Convergence of politics and economics has to happen. Reality reminds you have to converge economics and environment into the dynamics, ensuring recognition of the fact whether you lend or invest, a risk-weighted portion of your capital has been the core foundation for you to invest on sustainable projects, water management, waste management, and again, recognizing renewables are all solutions which we have. We have to create a better world for our children and grandchildren. If we recognize that, we have to understand carbon neutral society has to be created. Recognizing the fact that carbon emission has been the forefront for the industrialized nations. China ranks number 1, 27%. And again, United States ranked number 2 with 15%. Europe ranks number 3 as 10%. India ranks number 4 with 7%. It is not sustainable living. It is not a 7.5% growth. It's not our macroeconomic fundamentals we can drive the change. We cannot have sustainability or living or development unless you recognize you have to converge in many policy making. And politics has to have a principle-centered values, and the values-driven system has to converge in real order. And that's the need of the hour. That's why my recognition of multiple doctorates, one of the doctorate is from Sri University. I was the first doctorate from Sri University to tell you the fact. It was converging on green banking. It was converging on recognitions. A portion of the risk-weighted capital has to be invested based on the clean development mechanism set in by the universal standard in the United Nations. You have to understand, you have to invest or lend money only in those directions. It is not charity. It is not a simple giveaway. It is a commercial viable business model. That's what we need to articulate. How do we create a carbon neutral society? How do we create waste management, water management, reuse and recycle? How do we eliminate cutting trees? How do we make sure we create a society which is going to have endurance and tolerance to make sure we have a fresh air, we have hygiene, we have sanitation, we have education, we have environment. To do that, we need to build a partnership. We need to build this global partnership to make sure whether it's a trade or investments, or banking or finance, we need to factor environment into this. That's precisely the reason. Europe has structured already the carbon emission, how much should be the maximum emission each state can afford to have in the transportations. We need to evolve what we have all in terms of COP21. I was a party to COP18 in Doha. COP21 has set in right kind of principles. Clear recognitions to make sure contentious issues between developed world and developing world converging into real order, and policy definition, whether it is solar. Solar is a bigger meritocracy in terms of carbon emissions. It is renewable, it is energy efficient, environment friendly. And we have to migrate to that. Again, photovoltaic opportunities are very many to see. Even where I come from, 45% of the world oil, 25% gas comes from. We have opportunity to sustain the Arizona sunshine. And that is precisely the reason why I lend or invest not less than 10% for water conservation, not less than 10% for cooling systems, not less than 10% for carbon emissions reduction. And that's the way to go. We all have a role to play. It is not individual. It is not only individuals or institutions, countries or continents. The world has to unite to create one world, one society for human dignity. That's humanity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Sitaraman. That was a very passionate and powerful, poignant call for sustainability from economics to economics, which I thought was very interesting. It redefines my profession. That's very good. Okay, Hariji, over to you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Namaste. Om Swastiastu. It is a greeting from Balinese people. First of all, as religious society, let us express our thanks to the Almighty God, because only by His blessing we are able to gather here in the sustainability and development. In this occasion, I would like to take this opportunity to adopt this topic into the Balinese community case study. As Bali and India, over centuries, India have historical relationship and culture exchange in Indonesia, especially in this culture and religion. As far as you know that in Indonesia, there are so many temples, Borobudur temple, Prambanan temple. There are dead monument, but the other, Bali, it is a living monument. So the concept of Balinese, they are very important for us, for the preserving and changing. The Balinese system is manifestation of the three Hitakarana philosophy. It can be viewed from several perspectives. First, the Balinese philosophy of life is a balance of three Hitakarana. Three Hitakarana are the three causes of happiness, or balance between relationship, the relationship between human and God, between one individual to another, and between people and their environment. The three fundamental concepts for the Balinese culture is the need to maintain harmony among these three balanced relationships. The concept attempt to place the people as center of human activities. Therefore, it is people who take a control for the responsible for every change. The development of effort in their society, they are truly concerned for the preservation of the natural world, and their daily life reflect in their value. Culture represents a consolidated pattern for human knowledge, belief, and behavior. Mixed together, they form of human capacity to learn and transfer knowledge to the next generation. Ritual behavior play an important role in human religious life. In the way of religion act and a compass of human behavior. Culture and religion are integrated part of the life of Bali and are expressed in their philosophy of Tri Hita Karana. Secondly, Bali cultural values are seen in the traditional religion of Hindus Bali. The tradition dates back to the 9th century and can be seen in the archaeological finding at the Gianar. There include the subak, which are the traditional system of water management, which are unique in Bali. To provide an offering of holy water to the Almighty God, Hindu people in Bali arrange water distribution system utilizing subak as water temple. Water flow from the uppermost temple located near the lake and headquarters. The culture of Bali include not only the concept of manifestation of the, but also the culture value derived from behavior in the basis of life in Bali. The Balinese people, they call the tradition is ngaya, helping each other, which are volunteer work dedicated to the Almighty God. So, in other thing, what I would like to say, in relation of the economic, the Balinese people are very much really on tourism development in Bali. Tourism is display ongoing culture has been shown to improve competitiveness, provide job, reduce immigration. I mean the immigration out of the village and provide income for investment are being as well as alleviating the poverty. What I would like to say for the next, I noted that the culture tourism is manifestation for culture commodification in the economic concept. This commodification interpreted to mean that culture, it was important asset of the value become the more, if we more preserve, so we can more get a proper prosperity to the society. Still, I would like to talk about the sustainability, but it's better if we can discuss for that topic. In adaptive, in Balinese culture, they can apply a concept of the adaptive governance. The concept of adaptive government, they are according to life for Balinese people, start from grassroots community. In the rural community, the rule of the life for agriculture as well as settlement are built on agreement and embodied rule of society. These rural agreements are known as awik-awik. So the Balinese culture already possesses in the adaptive concept for how organized life and become their concept of adaptive government. Therefore, my honor for sharing Balinese Tri Hita Karana, not only for people in this forum, but people around the world, since we need inherit this to the young generation for the global future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hariji, for bringing in the dimension of culture, religion, and sustainability. Amit, over to you.
At the outset, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Art of Living for having included me in such a prestigious event of the GLF and also witnessing perhaps the largest confluence of diversity in the world. Unlike the controversies which surround the subject of sustainability and developing, I believe that development is necessary, and I believe that sustenance can be achieved with development. As my designation suggested, I'm part of the Tata group of companies. For 148 years, the Tata River has flowed on. Like many other large rivers of the world, it has managed to overcome obstacles. It has managed to grow. It has managed to have long traction. And while it has moved on, it has shared its power for the improvement of happiness and prosperity of all people on its banks. I think this is a beautiful quote which describes the journey of the group and perhaps describes what any corporation or any large organization should do if it wants to achieve long-term sustenance by looking after all those in its community and the place where it belongs. I believe leadership is perhaps the most important characteristic for any endeavor to reach its success. And I'm going to take you back in history and share with you the story of our founder, Jamshedji Nasirwanji Tata, the vision which he had, not for industrial development, but development of the nation. In the 1880s, Jamshedji was very troubled by the pollution which was enveloping Mumbai. There were textile mills and other factories which were polluting the environment, and it was very difficult for the people to live. He believed that the solution to that pollution was hydroelectric power. In his travels, he had seen hydroelectric power being produced at the foot of the Niagara Falls. After some studies, he found that the best place to harness water at the top of the mountain was near Mumbai, a hill station called Lonavala. So a reservoir would have to be built at the top of the mountain because there was no one big waterfall, but numerous streams. And after that, the water would be dropped 1,800 feet to the valley where there would be turbines to produce power. Mind you, we are talking about 1880s, not 1980s. Pipes would have to be built for that full drop of 1,800 feet so that the water could flow down. And they would have to do this continuously because power, as you know, cannot stop. So these huge 7 feet wide pipes he imported from Germany and put that 7,000 people to work over there where they were laid and soldered on rocks so that they don't move. And they're able to bear the pressure of the gushing water which flows down. It is now 90 years, or perhaps even longer. We haven't had any leakage in those pipes. I will take the liberty of sharing one more anecdote of Jamshedji. Around the same decade of 1880s, it came to his mind and heart that India should have the world's, or perhaps build a steel plant which could be compared to the best of the world. He had read in a geological report that the best iron ore mines were in a Chanda district, which was near Nagpur, which today we call Chhattisgarh. Now, anybody who lives in India knows that Chhattisgarh, or the Chanda district, about 130 years, was nothing more but a big forest. And in that forest, you had wild animals and tribals, but no infrastructure to go to. And there was very few communications possible at that time. But still, he decided he wants to put the steel plant up over there. Unfortunately, the steel plant got built after his death. But the vision which he shared during his lifetime with his son on what should be done to set up the township which would be necessary for the plant is what I would like to share with you. He said in a letter to his son in 1903, "Be sure to lay wide streets planted with shady trees, every other of a quick-growing variety. Be sure that there's plenty of space for lawns and gardens. Reserve large areas for football, hockey, and parks. Earmark areas for Hindu temples, Mohammedan mosques, and Christian churches." What more could you ask for from industrial development? In today's world, we talk about CSR, communities services. We talk about recognizing the need for developing the community. He spoke about this 130 years to the Tata organization. In a free enterprise, the community is just not another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the purpose of its existence. To conclude, I would say that laws and regulations may direct enterprises and municipal corporations to establish processes to protect the environment, but the effort will always be an effort in compliance. For effective change, the leaders with example must show that actions and endeavors pursued must stand as much for the well-being of the community as they stand for the self-interest. Only then will sustainability be systemic and development be sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amit. You've brought to fore among many other dimensions, two very important aspects. One is the leadership dimension, using a very powerful example of a visionary leader like Jamshedji Tata. And the other aspect has been how businesses can play such an important role in this. I should mention that one of the co-organizers of this Global Leadership Forum is the World Forum for Ethics in Business, of which I'm a board I represent the World Bank on the board of World Forum for Ethics in Business. And this fundamental premise of the World Forum for Ethics in Business, which is organizing this, is exemplified in your example of Jamshedji Tata, which is how businesses, it's the notion of shared value, which Harvard Business School professor Michael Porter has talked about, which is how businesses can generate economic profits by solving societal problems. And that's what Jamshedji Tata's example is. Okay, so we are running short of time, but I want to make sure that we have the opportunity for a few pointed questions from the audience. So I'd like to request you to please raise a few, but it has to be questions to the audience that you pose, and then we will take inputs from the panel. So go ahead. I think you want to come in first. And my request is for you to be brief and pose a question to the panel. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. I think after a very nice presentation by Penny, I was very impressed with Dr. Sitaraman. I think the very forceful speech. And I think that talking about the water management, I would like to only emphasize on the water management, which I think in India has becoming a very serious issue. And luckily for us, I think the Gurudev has taken a lead in this, especially in the state like Maharashtra. And I think I would like to tell all the audience who are present here and the presenters, that I think we have got a group here who are doing an extremely good work in Maharashtra of reviving the rivers. I think they have revived almost about 11 rivers. I think the rivers where there are small rivulets, but I think when the monsoon water comes in, I think it flows and then it goes to the reservoir and things like that. But I think all these rivulets and nalas were completely choked. And now I think we have taken a very massive effort because Maharashtra is suffering from acute water shortage. And we would like to see what Dr. Sitaraman and his group can do to encourage this work in India, which is of paramount importance, because I think the next war is going to be fought over water. And I think if we don't look on the water as our main resource, I think we'll be in serious trouble. Gurudev has taken very active steps. A lot of work is being done. And I think we have got the colleagues with us who can give you more details. But I think any one of you and any one of the audience, if they like to participate in this endeavor of Gurudev, we'll be very happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Shall we take a few questions? Yeah. I'll come back to you, Dr. Sitaraman. Thank you for sharing that. And in the wake of controversy surrounding the World Culture Festival and the commitment to convert this area into biodiversity and to do Yamuna restoration, that will also be quite important. Thanks for sharing it. Rabbi, you want to come in? And then we'll just go this way. Let's take a few. I'll request my panelists to make note of issues that, can you give the microphone to Rabbi, to the Rabbi here, please? Please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I would like to bring a hopeful perspective. What we have been talking about and expressed has not been on deaf ears. So the United Nations have accepted the Sustainable Development Goals, which are aimed at bringing the two together and eradicating poverty, acute poverty, by 2015. I've just come back from a conference in Berlin where the German government has invited religious leaders because they feel, and not only they, but more and more of the governments and politics, that the aspect of religion and the various religion, the spiritual wisdom of the past is necessary, and involvement is necessary to do the job together. I, myself, being a rabbi, I also search for a way of the activities. And so just a couple of years ago, when we brought religious leaders to a meeting on water in Holland, we brought together religious leaders. And together with Puji Swami, Chidananand, we have made an interfaith alliance for water, sanitation, and hygiene. Because all of you are right, it is holistic. And God and the source of the universe wants us to understand the holistic. And so we are trying together to foster this interfaith relationship. And so finally, I would say, there is such a wonderful opportunity for the art of living and all that is concerned to bring this message and to know that there is a listening heart and that we are facing a 15 years alliance of time and space, of sacred time and space, to do what God requires of us, and it will be done.
Thank you very much, Rabbi, for sharing that and the interfaith dimension. Yes, go ahead, the gentleman here.
Yeah, hi, hello. I see a lot of discussion between how to balance environment and profits and development, but one of the important resources are human resources. And from around the world, whether it is Japan and everywhere in China, people are getting burnt out, and corporations are pushing people to the extreme. So maybe some comments about how to make your human workforce more productive and healthy. And I think things like meditation, yoga can help your people be more effective, and you don't have to burn them out, because it's important to consider the human resource also in the sustainable and developing, I think.
Very interesting dimension, the human sustainability dimension. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll just turn to, let me take one final question from the young lady here, and then I'll turn back to the panel.
Thank you so much. I'm Swati from Mumbai. And I would like to pose a question to Ms. Krishna. And that was quite interesting 4 pointers you had shared about creating awareness and policy framework and all. So as you said that creating awareness is important, so just want to understand how the government is creating awareness about the issues in your area, right? And how it is ensuring the implementation of decision taking. Because generally we decide about what to do, how, but the important aspect is how to do. So how, what your government is doing about it.
Thank you. Let me take one more question, because we'll have 5 questions and we have 5 panelists here with me. Can you give the question to this man here?
Hello. I think sustainability is taking a big hit because of the extreme positions that are being taken. Like Dr. Sitaraman mentioned about extinguishing cutting of trees. Is it practical? The lady from Suriname mentioned about taking action against all those people who are doing the exploration, the extraction, which is impossible. Okay. Even in Indonesia, which we know is a country where there is a lot of pollution and there is lot of carbon emission problems. We are talking only of the goody-goody aspects of, we have this, we have that. So both these aspects are extremely, these are extremes. In fact, I appreciate the view taken by Mr. Dalal, and if the panel can throw some more light in lines of, the development. This development cannot stop. We have to accept this, but we cannot take an extreme position as well. Thank you.
So the issue of balance rather than extremes. Okay, let me let me go from my right here this time. Dr. Sitharaman, do you want to begin? And then we'll go this way, and any one comment you want to respond to? Go ahead.
Just to answer to the water management, it's my experience. I come from the Gulf states, where I manage a bank over many years. We finance for water conservation. Recently, I financed in the state of Qatar, 3.2 billion Qatar riyal, almost around $700 million. It's, in Gulf, there is no real water, drinking water. We desalinize. So we want to conserve, in case of calamities, how do we store them? How many days they can sustain, if there is a need for it. And the way we have mandated as an internal policy framework, that's what I was trying to articulate. When you, as a financial institutions, it's a commercial model, a portion of a risk-weighted capital, depending upon the carbon emission of each country. Okay, if you're emitting more than you have, this regulators have to set in a discipline, how much is the maximum they can allocate, like you have priority sectors lending in India. Unless there is a mandated policy framework comes from the regulators, nobody is going to finance these projects. They will lend for oil and gas company, they'll go for manufacturing. So these projects are commercially viable, whether it's water management or waste management or recycle, small and medium-sized entrepreneurship. There has to be a concerted effort from the public-private partnership model. That's what we have done, and we have managed to bring in as an internal policy to lend for such practices. And that is what need for India as well. India, looking at the Indian demographic structure, I think a lot needs to be done by the banking community for water conservation and water management. As a policy, if it comes from the Reserve Bank of India, a portion can be realigned. It is a good commercial model, and it can sustain the overall economic framework of India.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Sitharaman. David, did you want to say something? Krishna?
Thank you. I would like to respond to someone who talked about sustaining the human being, human capital, how can it be sustained? I think this is where we think the world has to work together and come up like the United Nations or the World Bank. I think they've started working on a global fund where there's innovation. The challenge that we have with development or developing human nature, especially, or human skills, especially in less developed countries, is that there's no economic incentives for people or for organizations to develop those skills. So we need a global fund. We need public and private sector partnerships so that the human beings are developed, especially in those less developed countries, in terms of their skills of doing work. When they improve their skills in terms of their IT, accessibility, and their knowledge, it will be easier to work. They'll be more productive. They'll be more competitive. And when they're more competitive, it means they are less trained in terms of their bodies. So I think we need the world to work together and come up with a model of developing human beings. I thank you.
Thank you. Krishna ji.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I believe awareness is, let's see, the government of Suriname is not doing very well on raising awareness within the community, but I believe that raising awareness is not only a task for the government, but every institution within Suriname, but also international. And how we can do that is what Art of Living is doing in more than 150 countries already. And that it's starting at a very basic level within the families, with individuals, at the schools, at any institutions, at the local level, in neighborhoods, in countries, but also and international institutions. So it's very important to raise awareness on how important is to preserve the nature for next generations. The second question was, I believe indeed in balance. Balance, because I have talked about the needs of people, and I believe that we should make people aware what really makes people happy. And I have also raised the question of small states who are under pressure to create economic development, but at the same time have the balance to preserve the livelihoods for people for now and for the next generations. And when taking decisions, we should take this into consideration. So it's a very important moral issue for leaders from now to take this into consideration. And I have already also spoken to that if there are leaders sometimes that they are, how you call it, corrupted and bind communities for the next 100 years maybe. So we have to look at that issue, and it's a moral issue, and I think we should, as leaders, we should promote a high set of values, and that's very important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krishnaji. Amit and then Hariji, quick interventions, and then we'll need to close because we are out of.
I'm very optimistic about the fact that the world now is spending so much effort and time and money in trying to see that we have a better environment, a better future. And like everything else, it usually comes after a crisis. We have had 20 years of greed taking over the financial system, and we saw what happened after that. We have seen corruption reach its peaks in many countries, and we are now seeing a kind of revolution coming against these. Nobody wants this to happen anymore. On the contrary, people are now looking more and more at CSR, charity. It's coming more naturally because people are talking about it. So I'm quite hopeful that the next 20 years will be much brighter than the past 20 years that we saw.
Thank you, Amit. Hariji, quick last word from you.
Thank you very much. I would like to comment about the balances of the life between the preservation and changes. So in Balinese life, the core value, it is the spiritual. So the many part of, not only in Indonesia, when they are different between religion and culture, the same with if we see the railway, so there's it's not working. So the extreme is because of that. So in Balinese value, so the God, the spiritual is in the top, but in the other side, the triangle, it is the other side, how they're living, how the economic growth, how the protection, the environment. So the important thing is the core value. The core value is the spiritual. Then I would like to say that the leadership is not the individual. Leadership is for the organization. So togetherness, it is very important. How the individual organization, the togetherness lead or to give other interfere organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hariji. Thank you very much, all. This was a very important session. We discussed whether development and sustainability are contradictory, and they can be, but I think the message from our panel is they can be very complementary, but it requires a different paradigm, it requires a different way of approaching this, one which places values and ethics at the center, and leadership is a very important way to get there. Enlightened leadership, but collective leadership in working in partnership to create a joint movement, and that's hopefully what we can ignite and nurture and sustain through this forum of the Global Leadership Forum. Thank you very much. Please give my panelists a big round of applause. And I think we will very quickly felicitate them. So if you can come, you can begin on because I think Amit has to go right away. So if you can begin on that side. And thank you very much to our audience. Sorry we couldn't get to some of you on the question and answers, but thank you very much. I think the bus is going to leave at 2:30, and there's lunch outside. Thank you so much.